We're going to talk about the difference between working from a burning platform and working from a burning desire. That's really where we'll focus today, because that's really one of the core ideas in everything we do. So we want to take a moment to dive a little deeper into what is actually the difference between these two ways of motivating yourself and others. Welcome to the next episode of Personal Selling Weekly. And our ambition with these short YouTubes is to bring inspiration, tools, and ideas you can implement right away. The basic difference in these two approaches is that you are either, in a way, giving people something to move away from, or you give them something to move towards. And I think both things works. And again, this is a very deep pattern which is basically built into all of us. And it's something which is rooted in some of the more primitive part of our brain. I think even as early as the amoeba had that way of operating. Either it was moving away from things that could harm it or kill it, eat it, or it moved towards something it could eat. So it's very old pattern, and it's still a very, very strong driver in the back of most people's mind. When we get the question, so why is it more productive to work with a burning desire rather than a burning platform? I would say that, of course, it really depends on the context. But again, typically where we operate is in business to business sales context. And again, very seldom we meet organizations that's dying here and now. Sometimes we meet organizations that have been led to believe that they are dying, but actually they are not. When you go and look at the numbers, they are actually profitable. They bring in revenue, and they actually have a lot of customers. They have a lot of good people. They have fantastic products. So there's a lot of things that actually works. Of course, you can create the illusion of a burning platform, and that's very easy because people are very, very easy to scare. But I think the reason why we see more value in working from a burning desire is that it tends to lead to better decisions, because when you really truly understand where you would like to go, it's easier to plan the route to get there. If every day you wake up, what you do is that you are planning your activity to avoid things. Of course, you can be very active and very busy, but you're not necessarily getting to where you truly want to go. And that's why it's not so sustainable to work from the burning platform paradigm. We really want to see you work with your customer in a way where you can truly help them get what they really, really want. So that they end up with a more healthy, sound business, and for them, maybe also more happy customers. If you want to work with a burning desire, it's important to understand that you cannot start there. You need to create a mental platform from where they have access to their burning desire. Because again, if a customer is actually in a state of fear, or if they believe they have problems they need to fix here and now, you cannot ask them what they truly want, because there's no connection in the brain for that. So you need, in a way, to lead the customer to a starting point where they are okay, where they're relaxed and open. And typically you do that by having them share some of their successes, what's actually working. And even that is not so easy. So you need to understand how to, in a way, set up the context so that it makes sense for the customer to share some of the things that actually works for them. So it could be that you could say, wow, I have seen that over the last few years, you have had growth. You are selling your product not only within your own country, you're also exporting it all over the world. So from your point of view, what value is it that you see that you are actually bringing to your customers when you do that? And how do your customer perceive that? Again, if you can get the customer to answer questions like this, it will be very difficult for them not to, in a way, relax, move into a more positive state of mind, because sharing things which are positive lead to positive emotions within the customer, which again shift how they think about the whole situation and what they want to see in the future going forward. When you want to really understand that deeper desires, that burning desire, you cannot just ask the customer, what do you dream of? Because I think in business, I think that question will not always be social acceptable. So in a way, you need to sound a little serious. You need to sound professional to allow people to really dream. So sometimes it's about taking them behind the goal of the goal. So to take them to the outcome of the outcome is also sometimes the way we phrase it. Because often customer will show up and say, wow, we really need some sales training. Okay. And when I get that comment, I say, okay, so let's say that we could design the optimal sales training for your organization. What is it that will bring you? And why is that important? So you basically go in and understand what's most present in their mind, and then ask them, so what is the outcome of that outcome? And what is the outcome of that outcome? And when you do that, you will end up uncovering that burning desire. And I think that can be a way to do it. Often in communication, people are being taught you should not ask why, because why is a bad question. And I think again, why is a really, really bad question if the person is in a negative state. But when you ask people the why question, when they are thinking about their future desired state, it becomes a very powerful question and positive, because it basically helps the customer understand the deeper motivation behind wanting to get what they truly want. And that in a way create this pull, which will basically pull them into the future, into their desired state. Some other question which you could add to this is that besides really understanding what they want and why they want it, it can also be very useful to understand when they would like to see that it have happened. Because putting a time frame in place is also what will get them to have this sense of urgency, because now they start to understand that if they don't act, they will not get the things they want at the time they want it. And finally, there's a fourth question I really like to spice all of this up with, and that's basically questions like, and how would you know you got it? Because when you ask that type of question, you mentally bring the person into their desire state. And when you do that, in a way, they have the experience of already having what they want to have, and that have this effect that you start to build for them, together with them, a future memory, which will again help them not only commit to what you have been talking about, but also start to comply and actually take action. So again, if you as a salesperson want to apply these ideas, for instance, in your next meeting, maybe already this afternoon or tomorrow, I think again, as a newcomer to this idea, you need to take some time and prepare. So you could sit down and maybe think about, okay, how can I set up a frame for this meeting which will allow the customer to share some of their present successes, so some of the things they have done that have actually created value for their organization or their customers. And then think about how you can basically set a frame which will allow you to ask these questions about the present strengths and what's working now. Because when that's in place, I would say I will almost guarantee you that most customers, they will start to jump to their burning desire, because when they are feeling great, when they are really in a good emotional state, they cannot not connect to that desired state. So it becomes much more easy to actually understand what they truly want to see within the next half year, 1 year, or 3 years time. And then, of course, sometimes just being blunt and say, wow, I need to understand what it is you truly want to see happening for your organization, so that I can judge whether I can actually help you or not. So I think this is the main thing. But what happens in most meetings is that you jump directly to what needs to happen. before you have clarified the starting point and the end point. So I think the most critical part is really to be aware of getting the starting point and the end point. And then what needs to happen is often much more easy to get to. If you want an example, I think we have many, but one which really come to mind here today was an example I got from a private banker we trained more than 10 years ago. She had been in our personal selling program, and at the third module, she came back and looked really happy. And then I looked at her and said, wow, well, what had happened? And then she said, wow, I think last week I landed a very big new client. And it's just fantastic. It's a long time since I have been able to bring in such a big client. And then I say, okay, but why did this client decide to move to you? And then she said, wow, it was an older Swedish woman with a lot of old money, a lot of wealth. And I actually asked her that question, and she said to her, you're the first private banker I have ever met who have asked me what I want. All the other private bankers I have been dealing with through all my life had been talking to me about products and how to avoid losing money, but none of them had asked me what was truly important to me and what I wanted to get. And that's why I decided to move my banking business to you. And again here, I think in a way it sounds a little simple, but I think really having an interest in what the customer truly want can have enormous power. Leaving this session, I think I would like you to remind you that this is not only about your customers, it's also about you. Sometimes it's really important to remind yourself, what is it that you truly want? What is it that gets you up in the morning? Because I think that energy needs to be created first, because otherwise you cannot help others. And to get to that, you need to start out from time to time reminding yourself of your own successes, because that's actually which will allow you to get access to your burning desire. And I think, again, if you show up meeting your customers, you yourself having a burning desire, then it's infectious and it becomes much more easy to also do it with your clients. So remember yourself.